So, Plato's forms. It's this ideal in the back. And these ideals, these perfect circles, which that one isn't, they are there. And what's more, they are better. Because unlike the other ones, they actually obey the rules of geometry. Unlike the other ones, a blue is really blue. And unlike people, goodness is really good. And not only are they real and perfect and all these things, but they last. No circle. And yet, circles exist. We could remove every single circle in the world, or we could squash them all, making them ovals. And yet, the ideal of circle and those fundamental properties would still exist. There could be, and in Tennessee, there actually are no perfect right angles because everything's slightly off plumb and nothing's quite level. And yet, no matter what, the Pythagorean theorem is true. It was true before Pythagoras. It was true when Pythagoras first hypothesized it. It's true today. It'll be true forever. It's a truth, an eternal truth. So the good, the true, the beautiful, those ideals you have, they stay the same, and they're eternal. And so Plato's quest becomes one through the dialogues of trying to discover what those truths are. Not just the vague appearances we deal with every day, not just the things that seem to be one thing and might actually be another. But the things that are, as a friend of mine used to say, yeah, this is philosophical terms, the things that are really, really, really real. The things that are true and the things that are eternal. Whee! Okay, sort of illustrate the way this thing works with the forms. Take a line. Divide it somewhere in the middle, closer to one end than the other. On the big side, because there's a whole mess of it, we're going to take the material world. You understand the material world, things that are physical things, stuff, cabbages, kings, roommates, sweatshirts. Oh, good Lord. Yeah, that's why there's a sign on the door not to have any food or drink. I love it when I violate Milligan rules. And on the other side, there's the ideal. That's this world of form. Now, horse. Real horse. No. Material horse. It's right there. But it's on the material side. Because that horses, we have an idea of what a perfect horse, and horses are magnificent beings. Of course, Kentucky. But every horse has their own little imperfections, their own little lack of balance, things in which they're not quite perfect. And even though that might be a magnificent horse, it's still just a material horse and not quite the ideal. Various horses. Okay, we take a second line. And on the other side are images, copies of horses, bad representations. Now, clearly, these drawings of horses, and that one's mine. You see my skills. These images of horses are not as good as material horses, as the horses you're going to see in the pastures, the horses you're going to see at the Kentucky Derby, or the Preakness, or any place like that. Right? So we've got that. Images of horses, bad images, relatively good images, horses in the field, living, breathing horses, running around, some better, some worse. But the perfect horse is an ideal. It's a form. It's a concept in your mind. And we judge these horses by how close they are to that. We judge these horses by how far away they are from that. Okay, let's abstract it 1 degree further. Draw another line up. And with the idea of horse, we have all sorts of things. Power, grace, proportion. All these things which are made manifest in the idea of a horse, and then in turn made manifest in material horses, and then are vaguely imitated in the image. So we move from the idea of a horse to the abstractions of beauty, grace, power, proportion. And at the very end, we have the absolute form in which all these participate. The absolute form of the good, the true, the beautiful. Up there at the highest ideal. So that's basically Plato's world. We've go from the worst representation, worst copy imaginable, up to the perfect, the form, the good. Now, this is the hard part of Plato. What's real and what's appearance? Clearly not real. I mean, copies, pictures, some of them even crappy pictures, representations. Okay. We have horses in the field, and we, because we are moderns, we're heirs of the Enlightenment, we think of those as being the real horses. But those, some are more perfect, some are less perfect, and those are constantly changing. One day they're a foal, the next day they're a horse out in the field, the next they're running in the races, and eventually they're just horse meat. And after that, dust. At which point are they real horses? Or is the idea of a horse, that which lasts forever, that which is all of us can have, that which is the perfect horse, of which those are just kind of images, just kind of representations. Is that real? Or the Pythagorean theorem, always true, always real, always existing, always reliable?